I'm Janessa Finley Ford, equal parts coach, healer, leadership strategist, and curious student of what makes us brilliantly human. I love psychology and neuroscience almost as much as I love a good laugh at my own expense, because let's be honest, mastering the art of being human requires a healthy sense of humor. My work guides women out of stress leadership to self-mastery, a self-mastery that creates calm, confidence, and influential presence that changes families and teams and organizations. And I do not teach from a pedestal. I teach from the practice, and I have the bruises, the breakthroughs, and the stories to show it. And thankfully, I get to have these conversations with one of my favorite humans. So let's meet the other voice behind the mission.
Hey everybody, and I'm SJ. I'm a certified crystal healer and shamanic earth and energy medicine practitioner. I blend science, spirit, and strategy together to rewire your energetic patterns for peace, potency, and purpose.
So today, we're going to kick off with the question, have you ever had someone quit and it completely blindsided you? And it wasn't because they quit for a better offer or because they hated the work, but because they finally admitted something they had been experiencing for months, and it had to do with you, and that they just felt like they could never relax around you. Ouch. They weren't talking about your intentions, they were talking about your rhythm. And your rhythm is actually a really big part of leadership that not a lot of people address. So, this month we have been exploring the law of rhythm. And today we're going to go deep into the most powerful rhythms you'll ever create, which is your reputation. And the unseen is this, is that your reputation isn't built by your title or your resume or those really fun occasional heroic moments where you save the day, those that make you feel really good. But your reputation is built by the emotional cadence that people experience every time they interact with you. It's the consistency of your presence, the way your nervous system enters a room. It's the pace you create, the emotional atmosphere you unknowingly rehearse day after day. In the scene, people stop bringing you ideas because they expect criticism, or they seek you out because they know they'll leave feeling stronger. They hide mistakes, or they tell you the truth early and they recruit your help to make sure that that mistake becomes a learning experience. They wait for permission or they take ownership. It's not because of your leadership philosophy, it's because of your leadership rhythm. So, this is where today's conversation gets fascinating because the Enneagram reveals that every personality has a predictable cadence under pressure, a rhythm that quietly becomes your reputation long before it becomes your intention. And today we're asking a question that may be one of the most confronting questions a leader can ever ask. And that's when people experience me over and over again, what have I taught them to expect? Because your reputation is not something you decide, it's something you repeat. So let's open our eyes. I'm going to toss it over to SJ and she can kick us off wherever we're entering into this conversation of the Enneagram for today.
Well, I think that every Enneagram type leaves people with what I would call like a predictable emotional residue. And that emotional residue becomes their reputation, what people expect to experience with them. And people don't adapt to our personalities, they adapt to the rhythm that our nervous system repeatedly creates for them. Right. So it's their perception, it's not our intentions. And I think so many people rely on that. Well, I never intended to cause or to make them feel or to make them think, whatever, your rhetoric is. And they believe that they should be judged based off of intentions. Well, intentions are not necessarily the thing that we judge others on, right? It's the impact. The impact of what we did is what everybody judges the other person on. And I think often we don't realize the impact that we're leaving behind in this emotional residue because we're so focused on our intentions. We're so focused on our core inner value system, what we want to have happen, that often we disregard the fact that even if our intentions were pure or good, we could have created an impact for someone else that was detrimental. So I think we should start with the heart points today. I think we started with the ones, right? Did we start with the gut points last week or last month? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. We're starting with the heart points, the helpers of the world. Let's start with the Enneagram 2. I see Enneagram 2 leaders be insanely helpful, right? They're the helpful. Of course, they're going to go around helping to where they help everybody else complete the other people's tasks, that they can actually fall behind on their own tasks, which then leaves behind that emotional residue often of, well, are they efficient? Are they able to get their own work done? It seems like they're focused on everybody else rather than their own stuff to even. I feel like depending upon where they wing, like I've seen those Enneagram twos, especially if they wing hard into that one, feel a little bit judgy sometimes too, because when they,
What?
help. No, I know, right? It's really weird. No, it's the three. I meant the three. If they wing to the three, they get judgy. Just kidding. That I think they start to be perceived a way that is not who they are. It is also not what their intentions are of being a little bit judgy when they're finally done with this, like, hey, everybody, why can't you all just figure it out yourselves? Like, why are you always coming to me? I'm not your glorified secretary. It is not my job to go look up this stuff for you. And oh, yeah, I have to go look it up too. Like, I don't actually have it memorized. Like, I have to go find the thing for you. So, why aren't you doing that for you? And I think when they hit that barometer of like, I'm over it, it can kind of blindside their team a little bit too, of like, oh, well, I didn't realize that this was a problem because you always just did it without saying anything, without telling me, that your needs weren't being met, or that you needed help, or that you were feeling overburdened or overstressed. To where also, I think they can become a little bit of like an emotional, like, sponge for the team too, to where everybody will bitch and complain to the Enneagram 2 because the Enneagram 2 will listen to it and not move into that, what are you going to do about it energy that some of the other Enneatypes will do. Like they will lament with you if you want to lament a little bit. Um, to where though also when the Enneagram 2 stops showing up in that way of allowing the lamenting or anticipating even the emotions and the needs before the other person even says it, they can start to get a reputation where, sure, they're incredibly caring, but they can't say no to anything and they're a little bit of a pushover. And then, you get that, oh my gosh, they were harsh today. But I think that's where you start to see the Enneagram 2 reputation come in that they don't expect, which is how is being incredibly caring make me a doormat now? Or make me incapable of doing my own stuff or incapable of logicking through stuff just because I was willing to sit in the emotions anytime the team needed to where like if they can find that healthy rhythm, they can support people without making them responsible for the other person's emotional well-being. So like they can still listen to it and support it and then leave the responsibility with the team member to process their own emotions after they have brought them to the surface rather than feeling like I need to spend so much of my energy focused on helping them process these emotions that I also lose sight of the now what action at some point an action has to occur, right? Like we can lament and if you come back tomorrow and you're great and you can move forward, no problem. But if the lamenting goes on for x amount of time, at some point the conversation has to be had around what are you, team member, going to do about that? It's not about me, it's not about what am I going to do for you, like I provided resources or whatever it was, but you have to shift that responsibility back to the team. And I think that's where they can really find their healthy rhythm, is having a good understanding of their own boundaries and their own capacity for what is a reasonable amount of time to help this person process through whatever these emotions are that they're having.
I think underneath the Enneagram two's behaviors, what's driving within their reputation is within the belief system, right? Is whether or not they feel genuinely cared for
Mhm.
or if they feel indebted. And I feel like twos get stuck in that loop where if someone does something for them, then they feel like they owe someone
Mhm.
else something. And in the workplace, where if you're in a workplace where there's a lot of structured teamwork, If they're leading from an indebtedness that they've created for themselves, then their leadership's going to feel heavy and their reputation is going to have a little bit of that murkiness where people are also going to feel like they're expecting something in return. If you're running a transactional debt keeping, and I mean, I just call pot black, kettle, whatever. I've had this come up in my relationships where it's been reflected to me. Like it feels like it's tit for tat. Like you have to do one thing and you're like, keep track or something. And I'm like, oh wow, well, that's not in my intention, right? So exactly what you said. Like our reputation isn't built from our intention, even though that's how we view ourselves and track ourselves and measure ourselves is whether or not we had a good intention. That's not what comes through in your reputation and what drives how people see you. It is their experience. So if they're experiencing with the Enneagram 2 this indebtedness, this tit for tat, it's going to create obligation. But when Enneagram 2s are moving through their generosity in flow, in their rhythm, when they're not overextending and overgiving, that generosity is going to create freedom. So I really feel like those are the different dynamics that come up for the two. I'm going to go ahead and actually kick it back to you this show. Why don't you introduce us to each type and I'll just follow up with my 2 cents. I like it.
Good old Enneagram threes, our achievers. I think when we look at our achievers, what they kind of find themselves getting lost in sometimes is they really intend to inspire excellence. Like that's really what they're shooting for is like I want to be excellent. I want everybody around me. Definitely want my team to be excellent because that team is a reflection of me. So everybody has got to be moving down this excellence path. To where they also can I don't want to say that they don't lie, right? But like they will reframe reality. Well, they do lie. Let's be real. They do lie sometimes, but they will reframe reality to where if something was painful within that process, that pain turns into a growth story of like, look at what we overcame, look at what we're moving forward without actually processing what that meant though. Without processing the pain, they'll gloss over those emotions for sure. Like, please don't talk to me about emotions, right? They don't want to have to deal with any of that. And they also, because they're so focused on forward movement of like, how do we just get to the goal and the outcome, that people eventually begin hiding weakness from that Enneagram 3 leader. Like they will hide the fact that they're emotionally overburdened, or they will hide even sometimes the fact that the deadlines are slipping to where everybody just becomes this performance of excellence, even if the excellence isn't real. So sometimes their reputation can become they're a super inspiring individual and they're also fucking exhausting. Like they are exhausting with the, like, we have to always be on, especially if there is an audience. Like, you can't have an off audience meeting, right? Like, your demos need to be on point. The way you speak to the public has got to always reflect in a positive manner, even if the experience at that time isn't necessarily positive. They don't want you to let that cat out of the bag. They want you to just move forward. How do you just move forward and not deal with all of the um, human experience aspects of it? And definitely don't tell the outside world that we're having a human experience within this team. Let's just pretend that we are aliens from, I don't know, the planet Lyra who just don't do anything but win. Like, all I do is win. One of my favorite Enneagram threes, like that is his favorite phrase. Like, all I do is win. That's all I know how to do. Like, what does that even mean? Like, do you even know? Like, do you hear yourself when you say that? Like, what is the prize you are winning in this specific scenario? To which, like, when you compose it back to them, like, okay, I know you want to win, but like doing this right here, what are you winning? And then sometimes they'll find they'll like, I mean, okay, well, it wasn't a very cool prize, but it was still a prize. So, like, better than no prize, right? I think when the Enneagram 3 leader can find their healthy rhythm, though, and they can reframe that reputation too, they can really make people feel successful because they're valued, not because of how they perform. Like shifting away from, like, yay, team member A, you delivered on time again. You're awesome. Like, how about team member A is awesome because of how devoted they are to the mission, to doing what's right, to just who they are as a person. Like, find the strengths, truly the human innate strengths of your team member, and congratulate them and make that person feel successful just because of who they are, rather than the output or how well they performed in that meeting that day. Focus on just the more human aspects and make that why your team is successful.
So I love I love that you introduced the three, and I loved hearing your perspective because I have to be honest, I don't have many threes in my immediate circle or even in the workplace professionally. So it's not something I get to see in live action on the regular.
Hmm.
And so when I reflected on the three, I really felt like one of the greatest things about them that would be, the positive side, we're polarized beings, right? So on the positive side of the reputation is that they really make things feel possible. They're always doing so much, and I feel like the Enneagram threes that I have seen in action, like they're really good at breaking things down to that next step and then being able to inspire people of like, hey, we're just going to take these next few or 35 steps, however many it takes for us to get there, but it's totally doable. And people will walk away with that inspired essence and vision that, okay, this is possible. But I also feel there's an element of the Enneagram 3 where they can internalize things. And so when it comes to their reputation and stress rhythm, when that, the mask where the three really doesn't like people to see the real them, so they'll hide behind that mask oftentimes if they haven't done some level of personal development because it's just innate within their personality.
Hmm.
But I think they will fall into questioning whether or not people are really seeing them. And when they start internalizing in that regard, I think their leadership becomes heavier.
Hmm.
Like the example with the two, because people won't actually experience the person, they'll only experience the doing and they won't feel connection. They'll just feel like, well, I'm here for an outcome. I just need to provide an outcome. And so it's really interesting the internalization dynamic that comes in to that personality structure where if they're not in the back of their mind questioning whether or not they're really ever being seen, they can be very uh, they come across more relatable and real and inspiring because they will make things possible. But when they drop into that aspect of themselves where they internalize, then I think people really get met with the tasking and the doing and can feel like it's more marching orders or that there isn't so much care about the person behind the task, just the task.
Yeah, what a good point you make about the Enneagram threes, too. That I think one of the most amazing things, and one of the telltale signs of when a three has done a lot of personal work, too, is when they start to do things their way and they vocalize it of like, I'm going to do this my way. And that's how you know that they've come into a place of their own personal development that is more balanced. Because instead of performing for whoever they want the accolades from, or whoever they think their next promotion is coming from, they've moved into a place of like, no, I'm going to do me. I'm going to play my game now. I just wanted to hit that because I think that's such a telltale sign of an Enneagram 3 who has done the work, is when you can see and hear them say things like, I'm doing it my way. It's usually followed with a even though story, but we won't get into those. Moving into our Enneagram fours, the individualists. There's only honestly one Enneagram 4 leader that I have to kind of pull this information from that I have personally worked with closely. Of course, they're super emotional depth, like the amount of depth they can reach within emotions, like I would rather drown than have to reach those depths. But it's amazing, right? Because their internal story, though, is really, I want what's authentic. Like that's what they're telling themselves. Like, I want authenticity. And then what they intend, right? Their intentions is to create honesty and connection. They want true, honest connection that is very, very deep. Now, I think in the workplace, sometimes that can become a little bit of an issue because I think people are naturally more guarded within the workspace than they are in their personal relationships. So I think the Enneagram 4 leader is often struggling with that. I want more depth and more connection within these relationships that a lot of Ennea types just in the workplace are never going to meet their high standards. I mean, hell, I'm an Enneagram 7. I couldn't meet their high standards out in the streets, let alone at work, because I'm more subdued. Like I'm a more subdued version within the most of the time. That not all the time. Every once in a while the crazy comes out, let's be real. But I try to be more subdued in the workplace than I am out in the streets. But every once in a while things can get weird. Where like that Enneagram 4, they're always going to feel deeply. They're going to process even deeper. And often they're going to express those things, the feelings and the processing, even more deeply externally. Like they're not always going to be able to internally process the depth of everything that they're feeling, which can create the experience for other people of, I never know what emotional climate I'm walking into today with this leader. Some days they're super insanely inspiring, funny, bubbly, like just a ball of energy. And some days they're really unavailable, right? Like they're just not here for it that day because they're maxed out somewhere else, or they recognize that this space in the workplace is not really the appropriate place for me to let all of these emotions just be on full display. So they can become a little bit reclusive too. And some days they're incredibly connected, and then other days they withdraw just to be able to keep their sanity probably together. I mean, I'm guessing a little bit of that, but to where their reputation can really become, they're really deep, but they're unpredictable. Like that emotional climate is just too unpredictable for me to know if, like, is it safe today to like, it's almost like you peep your head and they're like, what's the day like today over here? Oh, not good. Great. I'm gonna come back tomorrow because fuck that. Whereas, like, that healthy rhythm of the Enneagram 4 is they can really see themselves and others through this lens of my emotional honesty can actually create safety instead of instability. So, not just the lamenting of the hard, right? The hard emotions, but also like if we have to lament about hard, let's also celebrate the good. Like let's have an and both approach that is balanced to where it's also not just the Enneagram 4 that has space to lament and celebrate, but inviting in the other Ennea types to do the same. Allow their lamenting and their celebration and let it be at equal intensity as well.
Absolutely. I think the beautiful side of the Enneagram 4 in how people see them and building their reputation is that people will feel really understood in their presence
Mhm.
because of their emotional depth and because of their realness. On the other side, it's exactly what you said, that emotional weather forecast is changing rapidly, and it's like life in Nebraska. It can be 100-degree temperature change in a really short amount of time. Or, a whole tornado and hail might just swirl on up out of nowhere.
Mhm.
So that can really, the unpredictability when we're talking about the fact that people calibrate, nervous system to nervous system, that unseen side that we all have as humans, where we're calibrating and reading the energy of someone else, the unpredictability that can come with the Enneagram 4
Mhm.
can skew the reputation in a direction that leans away from the intention that person holds because of the wide variety of emotional terrain that they can bring to the workspace.
Yeah. I think one sign too that the Enneagram 4 leader is coming into that really balanced state or has done that personal work too is when they can allow other people time to get to where they can talk about or process the emotions rather than wanting to force it, right? So when they can accept that, yeah, I know I need to process this, but I can't do it today. And just allowing, like that state of allowance of just letting the other person take that time, I think is a huge indicator that that Enneagram 4 leader is moving into that really balanced state of allowance too of the other
For
person's
sure.
experience.
Yeah, and that level of honesty is also going to create connection and a
Yes.
lot of other positive things because who hasn't been there before? You know, like if someone says that to me, I'm like, oh gosh, got you. Yes. Hasn't
Right?
that been real life before? But if they keep it, the perspective of like, oh, all of these emotions, it's weakness, I've got to just shield up and try
Yeah.
to just push through, that's when it's going to be on someone else's nervous system radar, and then the unpredictability comes through. And so I love that you bring that up because the honesty really will have a very positive effect with colleagues and people around them when we're brave enough to go there. It's not always easy.
Yeah. The 4 is the best barometer, though, for any other head points or anybody who has a harder time expressing emotions at work. So, threes, you fall into this. I feel like when I say head points, I really mean threes too, from a processing center point. But the Enneagram 4 is the best, I feel like, Enneatype to be like, if I say this crazy thing, how does it make you feel? To know, like, should I say the crazy thing or should I not say the crazy thing? Because they will definitely tell you, here's all of the emotions that this brings up that I probably couldn't even have articulated in the moment either. Let's move to the head points. So the Enneagram 5, our investigator. Their internal story that they're always running, I feel like, is I need to understand this before I talk about it or before I engage with the audience about this thing. Like I need time to like do my due diligence, be the smartest person on fully up to date on whatever this topic is. And I think their intention behind that is they want to make wise decisions. Like it's really important to them that the decisions they make are wise and that they don't have to course correct. Course correction, I feel like for Enneagram fives, for them feels like failure. Like I was wrong because I didn't do enough research, and that's why we had to make a different decision. Versus if I could have just had the time to really investigate this, we would have never had to pivot. Um, and I think the emotional rhythms that they often repeat are watching, thinking, researching, and then also holding back until they're solid with everything that they now know or understand. And what the people around them can really experience is I don't actually know where we stand. And silence can become interpretation, and people can assume that distance means disapproval, right? So I think that the reputation the Enneagram 5 often gets is that they're brilliant, but they are really difficult to work with and or connect with. Like I think they get that reputation of people in the room are scared to vocalize their opinions once the 5 actually does talk because the 5 is pretty overbearing with the like word vomit of all of the stuff that they've already researched and why they're correct, right? To where the healthy rhythm I think a 5 can hit is when they can get to that place of my wisdom is accessible and it's not hidden. So as you gain the wisdom, you share the wisdom, even if you don't have the whole wisdom puzzle together. Be like, well, here's where I'm at today. Like, still haven't made a decision, but here's what I know. And just sharing it as it comes because hoarding the wisdom doesn't make you more credible. It actually gives you that reputation of you're difficult to work with because you hoard the info until you're like the Lord of the Wisdom over there, like the Lord of the Rings and my precious with the wisdom articles, that you think like, great, now I have all of the wisdom rings. Now I can tell you what I think about this.
Yeah, I think that the reputation comes off as being thoughtful
Yeah.
with your wisdom and intentional, or being unavailable because of the distance. And like you're talking about, like hoarding the knowledge because we're not fully incubated and cooked with it to have the conclusion or decision made yet. And distance, I mean, there's all sorts of things that people can read into that, being cold, being unreachable, lots of negative things that can come with one's reputation if we take that space rather than, again, like honesty. I feel like polarization and honesty both are just a real key point in this conversation because there are two sides of every coin. That's polarization. And if you haven't heard of the law of polarization before, go back and listen to some of our other episodes when we covered it a couple of months ago because it's really relevant here. And that's exactly how there's two sides to this coin, even with our reputation. But yes, specifically for the fives, I think they come across where they're really thoughtful and well planned out, well researched, really applying that wisdom, so intentional, or they're just not reachable and they're unavailable and they're hard to relate to. They're hard to talk to. They don't really engage in conversation. You just kind of feel like, I don't know, there's a brick of a human that sits behind that desk and like, whatever. Probably not worth my time really trying to talk to them or take problems to them.
Yeah, agreed. And then moving into our Enneagram 6. I mean, they're the, end of the world zombie apocalypse preparers, right? So their internal story is we need to be ready. Like, we gotta be ready for whatever shitstorm is about to roll downhill. But what they intend, like the intention behind that is to protect everybody. Like they want the whole group to be protected and to be safe. And the emotional rhythms that they so often repeat are constantly questioning, constantly planning, constantly preparing, identifying risks, like redo the spreadsheet 25 times before we're like there because we needed to start planning and preparing before we even had the full picture of the planning and the preparing. But listen, we're going to have 557,000 plans and one of them will be the right one, but if we only do like 5,200 plans, then like the right one was in that other 50 that we missed. And what others people I think often experience with those Enneagram sixes is something must be wrong. What aren't they telling us? Like, I think other people get that like deception vibe coming off of an Enneagram six because they're like, this shit's crazy. So if we're preparing for a zombie apocalypse, there must be fucking zombies out here in these streets somewhere. And she's just not telling us where they're at in these streets, right? Like, where are the zombies? Or do I need to like look under my bed? Are there monsters? Like, what are we preparing for? And then everybody gets anxiety and anxious about what's actually happening. They start to make up stories in their head about why we're preparing for this weird shit. And eventually the team starts to hesitate before trying anything or before doing anything because they're also like, I'm gonna have to redo this 55,000 times. So how about I just don't even do anything until 2 weeks from now? To where like your velocity also is going to slow down. And I think that Enneagram Six's reputation can unintentionally become, well, they're reliable. I mean, reliably insane often, but damn, this is stressful. Like they're super prepared, and I love that for them, but this is stressful. This is an anxiety-riddled team, like just too much happening, too many things, too much chaos, even for an Enneagram 7 often to where when that Enneagram 6 leader can really hit their healthy rhythm, they can move into a place of I prepare people without infecting them with fear. Like I'm not going to infect everybody around me with this fear and paranoia. I'm going to say I'm trying to prepare you for X. And I'm going to be very honest about what X is. Like, and I'm also going to be very honest about I don't know why I'm worried about this, but let's be real. I'm worried, but this is what I know. So give the full story. Don't give your own interpretation of, I think these are the pieces of the puzzle that's important to everybody. Give them the whole story and let them decide for themselves what's important so that they can map it together. Because if you can move into that, I'm just transparent. Here's everything I have. I'm worried. I don't know why I'm worried, but I'm worried. But here's all the info. You do with it what you will that allows your team members to no longer be anxious unless they're, if you have other Enneagram sixes on your team, you guys can be anxious together. But everybody else can move into that state of like, it doesn't seem that bad. And you can allow the other people on your team to help balance out some of that anxiety with actionable steps that we can do to prepare for what's happening or if you got a good old Enneagram 5 on your team, they'll probably research why you don't need to be scared, right? Like they will get all of the wisdom together to where you're playing with a full deck instead of just wishy-washy pivoting and planning for 55,000 times or items that might come to the forefront.
Okay, I'm going to sidebar here for just a brief moment because you brought up something that is so powerful to overachieving women who overfunction. So when you're talking about not giving all of the information, definitely there's this whole Enneagram 6 element that plays into it. But aside from that, this is something that overfunctioning women will often do because they're being over responsible for the
Mm,
emotions. Like you're trying to manage the fear, the emotions of other people, especially if you're leading through a change state. And so you're
right.
not giving all of the information because you're in a pivot or things are changing. And instead of just being able to hold space for people's process and emotions to move through something, this was something I definitely saw in myself as a young leader doing really frequently. And I thought I was doing it with good intentions, but at the end of the day, I was really trying to manage my own resources, if you will, because I didn't have the bandwidth to lead through the change and do all of the things that were required in that state of change. And then also deal with everyone else's resistance or naysaying or negativity or the emotions that sparked with that when their emotions was none of my freaking business and it's none of your business either. Like give them the space to deal with their own emotions on their own time. Now, to bring it back to the six, sorry, I just feel like that's so valuable. But to
Long
bring it
deep
back
breath.
so the sixes, their reputation, really, you're going to spark confidence in people when you're able to trust your own discernment. You're going to produce confidence in other people as well. Or, like you said, the anxiety. And the anxiety can, which is what really took my head into this whole change, because that's what I really see with one of my colleagues. Their anxiety flares when change happens and they're leading through change. And there's just a lot of anxiety around them because of their anxiety instead of just making the decision. This mantra that I love, I've been working with a lot lately, is I'm going to make a decision that I'm going to adapt. And you might have to adapt a few times and make a few different decisions along the way, but if you can be centered and peaceful, then your reputation is going to really exude that confidence and spark that confidence in other people as well.
For sure. Ah, the Enneagram 7. I mean, we have no bad reputation, right? Because we are the best Enneagram there is.
Right, right.
Oh, Lord, the Enneagram 7, our enthusiasts of the world. If you're new here, I'm an Enneagram 7, so I think I can speak to this topic of the reputation, which I feel like you're going to get a reputation of everybody either loves me or they hate me. And there's not much middle ground with an Enneagram 7 often. The core rhythm, though, I would say of an Enneagram 7 is we really want expansion. We want new adventures. We want, of course, freedom. We want to do whatever we want to do when we want to do it, is the reality of that. And the internal story log that we run is there are so many possibilities, and there is nothing that is out of reach. Like, if I wake up tomorrow and I want to be a brain surgeon, I'll be a brain surgeon in 7 years. No worries. Like, everything is achievable to an Enneagram 7. And what they intend for their team and what they want to do, the intention they want to have with other people is to inspire hope, to bring energy, to create opportunity, and to help other people find their own innate power, their voice, like step into that, like say what you have to say with your whole chest energy. And the emotional rhythm that we sevens often repeat is new ideas, new project, new excitement, constant movement, and no follow through and 5,000 pivots. Right? Like, oh, fuck it, we can fix it later energy. Well, not everybody wants to fuck it or fix it later, and they definitely don't want to have to do both. That
Oh,
sounds horrible to many.
absolutely painful.
It's
So much
awful.
pain for an Enneatype that doesn't like pain. It creates so much pain.
Yeah, so I feel like I should coin that phrase. I think for Enneagram sevens, that's a good one. That should go on a coffee mug for sure. But I think what other people also experience from Enneagram 7 leaders is they don't know if we're actually going to finish this project, or frankly, if we'll even start this new thing that the Enneagram 7 come up with, or was it just a bright idea at 10 a.m.? Like, is this real? Or is this person just on their Enneagram 7 crack pipe today? And people stop attaching to the enthusiasm of the 7 because they're waiting for that next exciting thing. And they don't want to have the disappointment of, well, I was really excited about that first option, and then that never came to fruition. And that reputation of the Enneagram 7 becomes, yeah, they're kind of fun, but they're also inconsistent and can't always be trusted because who knows if they're actually going to follow through with this new thing that they've said we can do, right? Like, who knows? So I think there's even a little bit of that, like the seven can feel dishonest because, yeah, yesterday I said that, but shit, today's Wednesday. That was a lot of hours in between for me to change my mind and just pivot to some new shiny object. Whereas I think a healthy rhythm for the Enneagram 7 leader is that our excitement can create momentum, but it only creates continued and lasting momentum when we provide follow through as well, right? Like you have to actually deliver on the thing that you say you're going to do and you have to complete it. It can't be like it's 87% there, so it's good enough. Like, no, it's not good enough for all of the other Enneatypes. You have to do it at 100% so that you can complete it, close it out, and move on to something new rather than, wow, we are a team of five and we have 17 projects happening all at once because our Enneagram 7 leader is bipolar and is like, hey, shit, let's do all of it. Let's not choose anything. Let's just do everything. And then there's no completion energy because everybody is left behind, and you can actually only prioritize one thing at a time. You can't actually have two or more priorities that you're actively working. So I think that completion energy for the Enneagram 7 is the most important thing. And really sitting down and asking themselves before they open their mouths and tell their team about some new shiny object is the new shiny object real? And am I going to complete it and follow through on it? And if you waffle on that, shut your mouth and don't say shit until there's no more waffles in the house because nobody likes waffles. We all like pancakes.
Hmm.
I hate waffles.
A debate for a different day. So I really do think with the Enneagram
I
7,
disagree.
there is they can be a lot of fun to work for or with, depending on, how that aligns.
Mhm.
Or you coin this phrase and it's so short and sweet. And then I'm just so happy to move on to the eights because really you're the seven expert, but they can be so much fun to work with or they could be a dud because of the completion thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're really
Please leave
awesome.
the duds for the candy. Milk duds, that's the only dud that should be in the workplace.
Those are disgusting too.
They're not my fave either, but better than a leader who's a dud.
That's true. I feel like there really is no in between with a seven, though. They're either awesome or terrible. There is just no in between of that intensity. All right, Enneagram 8, moving on to the gut points, the second best triad. Just kidding.
Right, because you love emotions so much, of course, by default.
Really terrible. These are not my people. I mean, the core rhythm, of course, like you're gonna sound like a broken record with an Enneagram 8, the challenger, right? Intensity, right? Like everything is at level 55. But the internal story that they're really running is I'll protect what's important. That's going to be important when we go on later, right? But I'll protect what I think is important is probably more accurate. And what they intend is to create strength, truth, justice, and safety. Like their intention is all of those things to be equal for everybody, even though when you see them move, you're like, I mean, you really like a good underdog story, but you're kind of abusing the triple A player you have over here just because you think that they, I don't know, need a lesson in who's boss. And the emotional rhythm that Enneagram 8 can repeat is lots and lots of directness, confrontation for sure, fast decisions, and everything being very intense and running over the edge of that cliff of burnout with never looking back to see what happened. And by the way, if the Enneagram 8 ran over the overwork out what is the word I'm thinking of? Overwork, outburn, that's not it.
Burnout.
Burnout. I'm like, shit, what's the word? Burnout. If the Enneagram 8 has hit burnout, everybody else hit burnout 5 hours to like, honestly, if it's a seven, like 5 years ago. Like, no, I was burnout a long time ago before you ran over the cliff. Like, I actually sat down like 50,000 miles back there because I was like, nah, you win. This looks terrible. And what other people on those Enneagram 8 teams can experience is I need to be prepared before ever talking to them. So it can kind of kill some of that curiosity that people have often, because even when the eight is completely calm internally, the intensity of them still fills the room, and people start filtering information about like, what do I say, what do I not say? And it's not because the Enneagram 8 is an unsafe person, it's just because the interaction feels really expensive. Like that's a lot of energy to bring topics to an Enneagram 8 for sure. Not 7 minutes till wrap up.
For real,
How did this
flying.
time go this fast? Like, I don't even understand. Whatever, fine. So, the reputation of the Enneagram 8 is that they're powerful, but so intimidating. And they don't give a shit about what I think or I feel because it's their way or the highway. Versus that healthy Enneagram 8 rhythm, they can really lean into that. My strength gives people courage instead of caution. Like, I want them to be courageous, not cautious.
Yeah, I really think that the if you're an Enneagram 8 out there listening, just take a little inventory. Is your strength creating safety or silence? Are your people talking to you? Are they clamming up? Because you're either going to make them feel protected or intimidated. And those are the two sides of your reputation that you're going to work with. And you want people who feel protected and safe because if you do, they are going to be your best employees.
Yeah. Moving into the Enneagram nines, the peacemakers. I think the internal story of the peacemaker is I want everyone to stay connected. Like I want peace in my life, and that is their intention is to create peace for themselves and everybody else. And the emotional rhythms that they often repeat are softening, waiting, avoiding friction, and keeping things comfortable. But what other people on their team actually experience through those actions is we never actually deal with anything. The room stays calm, but the problems also stay hidden until they can't. And eventually resentment often replaces the peace. And the reputation of that Enneagram 9 leader can become they're really easy to be around, but difficult to get a resolution from and difficult to get a definitive answer from and also direction. Whereas when that Enneagram 9 leader can move into a healthy rhythm, their peace creates clarity because they stay present for the hard conversations too. Like, and not just stay present for the hard conversations, they get to a place where they can actually initiate them, right? And not see it as this is conflict. It's just a necessary conversation to be had so that we can get back to peacefulness, right? Because we can't overlook the hard stuff in the pursuit of peace because you're just going to gloss it over and it's going to come back to the surface at some point, anyways.
Yeah, with the nines, you're going to lead in a way where people really feel accepted, and that's going to be your reputation, that you're just a very accepting individual, safe space again, like we just talked about with the eights, or like SJ said, confusion will be a result. People aren't going to know where they really stand with you. Like they might hear you say on one hand to one person that the sky is blue, and then you're going to turn to the other person because you see both sides of the coin always and say, well, the sky's kind of green today. And they're going to be like, wait, you just said like the opposite to someone else, and I'm confused, and I don't know that I can trust you, and I certainly don't know where I stand with you. And then you're going to have a reputation where you are confusing, and you're going to create confusion where you really want clarity.
Where are we at? Oh, yeah, Enneagram ones. Because you
We're
glitched
so
me out by
perfect.
going
Like
to
we
eight.
really don't even have to talk about us. We don't have time. We can just move to wrap up.
Yep, the core rhythm of the Enneagram one is to be a fun hater. Just kidding.
So rigid.
So yuck. The internal story of the Enneagram 1, the reformers, which, if you're new here, Janessa is an Enneagram 1. So we are
Yes.
polar opposites in many ways, but oh, what a beautiful balance of rhythm. The internal story, I think, the one is running is there is a better way and we can do this correctly. I think they're often scanning for, like, what is the best way to do this thing? And what they intend for their teams is to create excellence, integrity, fairness, and quality work. And the emotional rhythms that they often repeat, scanning for errors, offering corrections, raising the standard or the bar, and finding the next thing to improve. Better and better every day, they say.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. I feel like with the Enneagram ones, was this cheer saying thing like a thing for you as a kid? Rah, rah, ree. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh
Rah,
God.
rah,
An
ree.
Enneagram one
Kick
for
them in the
sure created
knee.
that shit.
For real, I feel
Ugh.
like that is at the core of our leadership reputation. We are either encouraging people, we're inspired for inspiring others to grow. Rah, 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 but like we're gonna be not your cheerleader in a in a true sense of the meat of the word, but we're gonna draw out the best in you so you rise. And that's where I'm going with the cheerleader part. But at the same time, we can for sure kick them in the knee. Like I have walked away from meetings before that I've led, and I'm like, oh, I want that one back. And it's not because the point wasn't valid, but I wish I would have delivered it differently. And so there's either going to be encouragement given or criticism. You're going to have people that you're leading who are inspired to grow, or they're going to be afraid as hell to make a mistake. And so that's really where you have to balance, and by you, I mean me too, the desire to be better, the desire to see a better way, but not push it on someone else. Let them be able to move into that space on their own with their own discernment and at their own time. I feel like I could talk for hours about the Enneagram one, but instead we'll just move to our wrap up. I can't believe how quick this show went by today. I feel like when we get into the Enneagram, that's always the case, but I hope that you really enjoyed this fresh perspective on reputation and talking about leading from an angle that not a lot of people talk about. Because really, this topic with reputation and our intention versus how we're calibrating people through their nervous system to experience us is not something that a lot of leaders even really stop to measure.
Hmm.
We're more likely to measure performance and productivity. We're less likely to stop and look at the pattern. But your reputation is not built by your best day. It's built by the emotional experience that people have with you over time, repeated day in, day out interactions. And those interactions are constantly teaching people something about you. So they're determining whether it's safe to bring you the hard truth, whether mistakes will become learning opportunities or a source of shame for them, whether your presence creates clarity and vision or it creates tension for you, the team, the workplace. And that's really the rhythm that people remember. But the good news is that rhythms aren't fixed, they're actually practiced. It's just the thing that is a pattern, and we practice that pattern over and over, and those patterns can always be repatterned. And that's why we created Stronger Together. And we're not here just to help women become more confident leaders. That's nice, but that's not the ultimate goal. We want to help women become more coherent leaders. Because when your nervous system is regulated, we talk about this all the time. When your nervous system is regulated, your leadership becomes grounded instead of reactive. And you master your unseen inner terrain, then your communication changes without having to memorize a script to deliver a message. Your boundaries become clearer without becoming a harsher person. Your influence becomes stronger without you having to become louder. And I'm so grateful for that personally because my voice is not loud and it doesn't carry well, but my influence is felt. And your team truly feels the difference. Your family feels the difference. But most importantly, you feel the difference. So, inside Stronger Together, we use these proven pattern interruption techniques and repatterning methods that go far beyond insight or cognitive knowledge alone. We help you uncover your unconscious rhythms you've been rehearsing for years. We help you regulate the patterns that no longer serve you. We intentionally build new ones that align with the leader, the partner, the parent, and the woman that you are truly designed to be. Because you don't rebuild your reputation by trying harder to manage how people see you. And that typically is our go-to, but it's really ineffective. You rebuild your reputation by changing the unseen patterns that create the experience of you in the first place. And if you're ready to become the kind of leader whose presence creates trust before you ever speak, we'd be honored to welcome you into the Stronger Together community. And when you change your rhythm, you change your relationships. When you change your relationships, you change your life. And it all starts with the relationship with yourself. So our next Stronger Together community call is Thursday, and we would love to have you there. And to grab your seat, you can visit www.strongertogetherinstitute.com. And until next time, keep your eyes wide open.